Riff, so we'll get in here and start it up. It's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you too.
So before we get into your work and your story, I want to begin with this. I always start with 6 years ago, the pandemic changed so much for all of us. It was a fork in the road. How did you get through that era and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
Well, we launched our business right before COVID really hit, and that was um, that was tough, right? Because at that point we went into lockdown, and nothing was going on, and that was, you know, having to just basically put out capital and bleed money for so many months was so hard. But ultimately, coming out of that, the demand in terms of construction and real estate services actually put us in a better position. So while we really got hit pretty hard, we really emerged out of it stronger. But not only that, right? Just as a team going through that and being put up against that challenge, I think it really kind of it solidified whether or not we could meet a challenge head on and could we survive it. That was a stress test that I don't ever want to go through again, but worth it to kind of see who's going to go through the heat of the fire with you, and come out on the other end.
So let's get into the work that you're doing right now. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day. And one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you synthesize your day job to make sense to them?
I take buildings that are broken and I fix them from the top down. So they're basically broken from the time they're built, and someone needs to come in and take them apart. That's what I do.
So, what did you want to be when you were that age? When you were at career day, what was your dream job?
I always wanted to follow my dad's footsteps, right? Always kind of wanted to uh, get into real estate or construction, but definitely didn't think I would be following the path of construction as closely as I ended up doing.
So, talk to me a little bit about beyond seeing what your dad was doing, what were some of the other seeds that were planted early on in you that made you pick this profession to get into this world? And are you originally from Florida?
Born and raised in Florida.
Okay.
So it's definitely a salt water in my blood kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately watching my dad growing up, owning a business and kind of forging his own path, it always planted the seed in me that ultimately I never wanted to work for anyone. I always wanted to build something of my own. And getting to see that growing up, it was almost like there was no other option. That's just what you did. You just figured it out and you forged something of your own, and you were expected to lead. You were expected to come up with something um that was yours and that was personal to you, and that you could build off of that and help other people through that and employ other people and help them put food on their table. I think that's really always the seed that was planted in my head, was no matter what your passion is, no matter what you're pulled towards, make sure that you build it and make it yours.
So, talk to me a little bit about timeline. How did you get to the point where you had your own entrepreneurial path separate from your father? How did all of that kind of evolve to where you're at today?
Yeah, so my dad passed away when I was 20. And his business partners and I kind of got together and said, all right, do we want to create a second generation firm? Because ultimately we always led through the concept of family. They were family to me, and creating a second generation firm is what made the most sense. So it was really about scrambling together, getting the experience that I needed at a level through honestly sweeping floors on job sites to then being able to lead job sites and be a super, be a project manager, go through those phases, right? Because I had to bring something to the table with those guys, because you're sitting in front of so much experience. And it's like, what do you bring at 20 years old? what do you have to provide to that group that is of value? And I think ultimately just going at it head first and saying, okay, I'm going to start at the very bottom. I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to get the experience I need so that I can bring something to this table. Um, that I think showing that scrappiness, right? Showing that I'm willing to do the work, that was the biggest advantage I think I could have ever had because it proved to them I'm willing to work hard. But I wanted to learn from the bottom up. That's on the job training in construction is huge. So that's how we started down that path was taking jobs where we could get them and then finally officially forming a second generation firm in 2019, I believe was the year we actually formally assembled. Um, and then from there, we really kind of made it more official and took on bigger and bigger clients.
So, beyond your father, talk to me a little bit about heroes, inspirations, entrepreneurial spirits that you've kind of mimicked. That's been a part of the way that that you've kind of etched your path in the business world.
Yeah, I would say that, you always look at, uh, to me, women who have kind of reached the heights in construction. Um, the owner, believe it's ABC Materials. She's a billionaire at this point, and she's running one of the largest construction material companies in the world. I think seeing that and seeing that level of achievement has always been huge for me. Modeling my path and chasing, having all these different um, roads to getting to where I'm going. Whether it be in a woman who's in real estate development, who's taking on the world in terms of like Miami, we have a lot of female developers who are really starting to get traction. Seeing that to me is has always been hugely motivating. But I also look up to, the Steve Jobs of the world because ultimately I'm a dreamer. And I look at him and his speeches, I find myself listening to them time and time again because it just really speaks to me because what I do is very black and white. Construction is drawings, it's technical, it's either wrong or it's right, but at my heart I'm definitely a dreamer, and I'm somebody who loves that imagination aspect of getting to be on this entrepreneurial path where I get to form kind of my own journey. um yes, within this technical industry, but getting to make it my own journey, for dreamers, what's really fun.
So, in Kansas City right now, we're getting ready to build a new baseball stadium. And everybody goes to our existing one, which was built in 1972. And they're like, what's the matter with you? It's one of the most beautiful parks in the country. Why, what are you doing? And you see that a lot in sports. They just demolish, they get rid of, they move out of these places, like you're talking about rehabbing buildings.
Mhm.
Is it really that cost effective to demolish and build new? And isn't that reckless with all the waste that comes out of all of that? Like, talk to me a little bit about the philosophy, the economics, how it works, rehab versus new.
it's it it is an interesting topic, and it's one that's becoming more and more important to discuss, especially as labor constraints, and material prices are skyrocketing. It's harder and harder to get your skilled labor, um, out to that job and be able to execute at a level that needs to be executed at. So more and more, we're looking in terms of a real estate development perspective. You're looking at taking buildings and repurposing them and saying, can we take this building and can we be more efficient in terms of our use of ground up construction? Can we take this? Can we change how it's being utilized, whether that's rezoning, taking it through a different entitlement process, whatever that is, and use these buildings in a different way? I think that's the way that everything is moving because ultimately it has to in terms of cost effective construction. You know, as we try to tackle this labor issue and as really the boomer generation retires, this is going to be a very hard industry to be in and build from ground up and knock something down and say, yeah, you know, there's no way that we can take this building and repurpose it or go in and reutilize it. Now, in terms of specialized buildings like a baseball, a park or arena or something like that, where it needs to have a very specific function, in terms of remodeling or redoing something like that, I could see where maybe your cost is beginning to outweigh just knocking it down and building something new, because ultimately rerunning all of the different mechanical operations that I'm sure you're going to need for an arena, that cost is going to be huge in terms of all those different skilled trades that need to come in and completely change the way that building operates. I can see where maybe that cost starts to outweigh, but ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, that is something that we are going to have to begin moving towards in order to solve a big crisis that's going to hit the construction industry.
So what's one of your pride and joy projects that you rehab that you did in your career that you always think about or drive by or see or something along those lines and you love it?
I think the first project I ever did that I was a superintendent on, for me, it was the most terrifying thing I've ever done. But I ended up, making relationships that I still have to this day with subcontractors. I learned from the GC that I was working for that had contracted me to do the superintendent work. He kind of took me under his wing and taught me everything that I carry with me today. And ultimately was the GC who endorsed my GC license. So to me, it was the birthplace of everything. It's where I fell in love with construction, and really began to understand that this was something I wanted to do and chase. And for me, it's really special to drive by those, and still see them standing, doing well, because I see so many buildings that have failed in the test of time that's only a couple of years. So, I have a sense of pride that the first project I ever did, it remains successful and it has that emotional aspect to it where someone really mentored me through it and someone took a chance on me, because that's the key. You have to find in that first job, usually somebody's going to have to take a chance on you. Somebody's going to take a risk. You're unproven, you're untested. And for me, that was really special. So I think that will always be the one for me.
So being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, running a large operation, there's so many pieces that can create a headache every day. There's so many moving parts. What is the energy for you every day to do this work as an entrepreneur? Take care of your own soul and do it at a high level. What does that mean for you every day?
I always say that you have to enjoy chaos to do what I do, because it's nonstop, right? Whether it's my business itself that is currently undergoing a bunch of chaos and I'm trying to solve problems there, or it's on the job site where it's just nonstop problems. The problems are coming in faster than I can provide solutions. Sorry, faster than I can provide solutions. So I think ultimately you have to know, do I like this constant chaos, this constant never knowing what I'm going to get today and being able to thrive in that? I know that I thrive in chaos now. I couldn't go do something mundane or boring. I couldn't sit in an office. I would get, you almost get like itchy. I don't know how to describe it, but I can't do boring anymore. I can't do constantly solving, constantly working. So I would say you have to know that about yourself, because otherwise you will hit burnout extremely fast. You will hit a wall, and I certainly know that even though I thrive in it, I can still burn out. But I know I'm doing what I love, and it's like I take my Saturday extremely seriously. My Saturday is usually my day where I'm going to sit, I'm going to not look at my phone. I'm not going to answer emails. And then Sunday is kind of like the first day of the week. And that's where we're gearing up and we're getting ready to go into the week. So I really try to have one day where you're decompressing, you're taking a step back. I'm not constantly thinking about it. And that's how I take care of that mental load that is on you. But otherwise, I get excited on Sunday. I get excited to go back to it. And that's what to me means I'm doing the right thing.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You walk into a room and your 18-year-old version is in there. And there's a film projector and you click play and you get to see like a 60-second highlight reel of this life you've chosen, the things that have happened. Would that young version of you believe your life turned out this way?
No, no. I think, you look back on everything and, a lot of people say it, but, the key is biting off more than you can chew and learning how to chew it. And I think at 18, I never would have thought that I was capable of this. I never would have thought that I could handle this level of stress and chaos and enjoy it, and that I could lead a company, and that I could um, be partners with the guys that I am partners with today. And they hold a special place in my heart because they were my dad's partners. So that to me is very, um, it's a level of trust. It's a level of saying, yes, we trust you to be able to lead this company and lead the next generation. I don't know at 18 that I would have ever thought that I was capable of that. And whether your confidence grows with age or whatever it is, I just think at 18, yeah, I would have never been able to picture myself here.
So, in that highlight reel that you watched, what are you the proudest of? What are you the happiest about?
The trust that's been put in me, to be able to lead people, um, to be able to lead projects. I would say, you know, having my partners on board, having their trust is a huge milestone in my life. And then taking on what's really what we consider our marquee project, which is it's one of the largest construction defect projects in the country. So it's a full repair of 94 buildings with all construction defect. And to me, we represent the board in the association or the community. And that's a huge amount of trust that's placed in you to say you're going to go out and you're going to make decisions in their best interests every single day. No matter what it is, you are always working in their best interest. I think I always have appreciated and respected the level of trust that's put in you for that, and that it shows. Okay, you know what you're doing. You know, we trust that you know what you're doing. We trust you to go out there and be able to lead this project in a way that brings it in a successful manner, right? That to me would be the two biggest milestones when I look back on the last 10 years.
So, along with so many other things in the American capitalistic kind of um, success stories that we look at, there's so many buildings and construction projects that are a part of that. If you could get into a time machine and you could go back to one construction project and be in charge of it, doesn't matter what it could be the biggest building, could be a stadium, could be anything. What would be a dream project you would love to lead?
It's funny because it's I there's a gentleman at the project I'm at now, and it's gone through some delays and some issues and trying to get engineering details worked out. And he always says to me, he's like, the Empire State Building was built faster than this. And he says it to me without fail with every town hall meeting we have. I would say I would want to go back and I would want to lead the Empire State Building. That would be my dream, is to go back and do that because you know you, construction was so different then, and
Yeah.
to me it's mind-blowing in the period of time in which they were able to build that, and so quickly, right? And it's withstood the test of time, and it's one of our that's a landmark building for us as a country. So I would say that would probably be my dream, is to go back and lead that project.
So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, all of your staff, everyone that knows you, but you're the one that drives the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, I'm somebody who I think I expect a lot of the people around me. But ultimately, it's about being fair, and taking care of the people around you at the end of the day. So I think I've turned into a leader who people can trust, people can feel comfortable following, but still always with a lot to learn. So I always lead from a place of listening and from a place of understanding the people around me and how they work and what's important to them. And I hope that in doing that, I can earn, their respect, because I'm hearing you. I'm hearing what's important to you. I want to learn how to best serve you as a leader. And I think that concept of servant leadership is super important. And that's what I've stood by. And that's always what I'm chasing. I'm chasing that version of myself constantly. So I think I've achieved some of that. I think I've become that leader, to a certain extent, but I'm chasing the better version every single day.
So if anybody's ready to take the next step, dive into all of the services that you provide, where's the best place to go to contact and to get an overview?
Yeah, it's a adg4companies.com. And that's an overview essentially that'll bring you to everything we do, all of our services, and how we can help you.
Okay, I will put that link in the show notes. This has been wonderful. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Great to meet you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I had a great time.
Yes.